Hi, my name is Pam Denny. I'm the designer and architect of the Maximo BI tools. And in the demonstration today, I'm going to highlight some of the new capabilities we have with the Maximo 7.6 release around the ad hoc reporting area. In previous demos, I've introduced the summary capability and the calculation capability, but in this demo, I'm going to go one step further and introduce the expression library and show how that can greatly extend the types of calculations your users can create. So let me do this by first signing into Maximo as Wilson, and Wilson has access to all the ad hoc reporting capabilities. And as I've mentioned before, it's extremely important that when you determine who has access to which ad hoc reporting capabilities, you analyze each security group's user skills and also their business needs. Because with the new ad hoc capability, you can create extremely powerful reports, and we want to make sure that the power in those reports is actually returning accurate data. It's very, very critical. So let me come over here as Mike, and I'm going to do a filter. I'm going to filter on a location, and an asset. Let me put the right values there. And I've come up with 19 records. So imagine Mike has this filter and he wants to find out what the number of days that these records are overdue, right? So he knows that it's not an available attribute, so when he comes into his ad hoc reporting dialog, he goes right over to the Calculate tab, and he's going to again build a calculation that's more complex than what we've seen before. And maybe he's going to come in here and say, okay, well, I know I need to do a comparison on my schedule finish date. So he comes and he selects the schedule finish date, and he thinks that he wants to subtract out the current date. And a couple of interesting things here, as you know, he needs a subtraction, is this lookup here. This lookup is what we call the expression library values. It's all those values that might not be an attribute, that might not be a simple mathematical expression. They're a much more complex SQL function. Well, he knows there's a current date time value in there, and because, let me just slide this down here a minute, schedule finish is a date time, he knows he needs the current date time. So it makes sense that he just subtracts those. So he comes in and he says, okay, this is my days overdue. He can do the test expression. Yep, it says this is a valid value. Again, test expression just looks at the expression. And then he can add the expression, but as soon as he does that, he's getting an error. And the error is because it doesn't like the date time value. When I do a subtraction of a date time minus a date time, I need to do something else. So let's pick a decimal, see what if that takes. And now I add the expression. It takes it. It seems that that is a valid value. Let me see what happens when I do a preview of the report. So when I do a preview of the report, again, I'm looking for the number of days that are overdue in this particular column. I'm getting a lot of data that just doesn't make any sense to me, right? I've got like 20 bazillion characters here. I don't know how to read this. It doesn't seem like it's a correct value. Well, the reason why it's not correct is because I'm not working or I'm not converting the dates properly. And to convert the dates properly, it's going to be different depending on the type of database you're using, whether you're using Oracle, DB2, or SQL Server. So let me come back up here to this expression library. And again, this is what the user can select from. But how do we build or expand upon that library? Well, the way you do that, let me cancel out of this dialog here, is to go to Report Admin. So let's do a quick imagination here. Imagine that I'm now the administrator. I come back over here to my Report Administration app, and I bring up this dialog called Define the Ad Hoc Reporting Library. And this is where all your expressions are added. Once they're added here, your users can utilize these. The expression library is so important because we want to make sure that our users are only using SQL functions that are contained within here. This is sometimes called a whitelist, what a user can do. We do not want a user, for example, to create an expression in an ad hoc dialog where he may update or delete records in the database. And we can prevent that by happening by, again, defining everything that he can do within the expression library. In the expression library, we don't do simple mathematical functions like plus, minus, divide, and multiply. Those are a given that the user can add those in his SQL expression. But again, anything else that he will do has to be added here. So before I add an expression, let's go see what type of database I'm using. Click on System Information. I'm using a DB2 database. And again, remember, every function is going to be different dependent on the database type you use. We do deliver out of the box these 5 values that are database agnostic. They will work in all 5 databases, but it's more likely now that we're building up is that a client will add a value, again, that's specific to his unique database type. So again, I want to do a subtraction and get some information or some data that I can analyze in DB2. So let's say this is a date difference function. Well, what is the expression going to be? Well, I'm going to navigate over here and do a quick cut and paste. For DB2, this is what my value will be. And I'm going to come over here, put it in here. So again, this is a specific DB2 expression or SQL function. And I want to give my user information on what this is. So this can be used to subtract dates, and I also want to make them successful, so I'm going to tell them to make sure data type is decimal, right? Make sure that I did that right. DB2, my data type is decimal, and then I click OK. Once that's in there, now let's switch hats. Again, I'm Mike in my work order tracking application. He's creating his report. Let's do that same filter, BR location, asset 113. Come over here, let's click create report. Again, I'm trying to find out the number of days my report, or excuse me, my work order records are overdue. So I'm going to grab that scheduled finish date. Let's grab it right there. And now let's, again, I don't want to do that subtraction, but let me pull up on my expression listing, and here's my date diff. Yeah, this is what I want. I want to subtract my dates, the current date. So I click on that. It's going to bring my expression in here. And now where I have my variable defined, let's delete that, and let's put in our attribute value here. Let's clean that up. Let's test the expression. Okay, I did my substitution correctly. Estimated, or excuse me, this is the number of days overdue. Overdue. Add my expression. It fails. Why did it fail? Well, if you remember, I was not paying attention here when I added this so quickly. It tells me right here what my data type is. It says make sure your data type is a decimal. Oh goodness, I have to change that. Data type, decimal. Now it's going to validate my expression against my data type for my specific database. I add that. Come over here and click preview. And now what we're hoping to see is that my field for the number of days overdue is in a value that I can immediately understand. Again, this is specific for the DB2 database. The SQL function will be slightly different for Oracle, will be slightly different for SQL Server. But you can see, once I have it in the expression library, I can give my user some information on how he can utilize it with that example. I tell him what type of data type to implement in his report, and then that displays as a column and makes him much quicker for him and anybody else using this report to analyze the data. So that's our expression library. Tells you about how the report administrator can build upon that, and then how it's available to the user to utilize. So thank you very much for your time.